Hey, yeah, we going big, going big. We going big, going big. We going big, going big. Don't trip, gotta get it how you live, hey, yeah.
Welcome to the Let's Think About It podcast, where high achievers stop performing and start transforming. I'm Coach Mo, certified core energy leadership coach, founder of the Inner Arena and creator of the SWAG framework. Self-awareness, why power, aligned action, and grit. Around here, we train your mindset, challenge your limits, and turn pressure into purpose. Subscribe now and join me on YouTube at Swag Coaching. So let's get your reps in.
We going big, going big. We going big, going big. We going big, going big. Don't trip, gotta get it how you.
Welcome to another episode of the Let's Think About It podcast. I'm your host, Coach Mo, and I'm here with my co-host, Algie Mosley, aka Coach Mo. What's good, my brother?
What's up, Coach Mo? It's another day with Coach Mo, not just thinking about it. Let's think about it and go a little deeper in thought. That's what I like about this, Coach Mo. It's like we go from cerebral to real, though. How do you feel?
That's right, brother. That's right, because it's all about taking people through that deeper dive to think about it, man. And when we have these thoughtful discussions, we're actually helping people get out of their own damn way. And that's what I love about the depth of things that we talk about. And that brings me to this, bro. I want to talk about the hidden cost of being the smartest person in the room. What comes up when you hear me say that? The hidden cost of being the smartest person in the room from a leadership perspective.
Wow. It just reminds me of the old cliche. If you're the smartest person in the room, you're definitely in the wrong room. But yeah, there are some hidden costs to that for everybody in the room.
I think the major cost to that is the overfunctioning that kills your team leverage. So what I mean by that, the cost of being the smartest person in the room, first of all, there's a judgment with that. What actually characterizes you to be the smartest person in the room? But when we show up as a leader, we feel we have to be that because most times we think we have to know all the answers to the team dynamics in situations that's going on as a supervisor. So we naturally carry that coming in with the expectations that I have to know everything. And there's a cost in showing up that way. That's where I want to explore.
Wow. That's pretty heavy. Because
yeah, man. So let's do this. Let's do this, bro. Let's take a journey through your leadership process and certain moments when you felt you had to have all the answers for your team before making a decision. What was that process for you? Thinking back, and maybe you're not that type of leader now, but I know all of us go through that feeling that we have to have all the answers for our team. What was that process like for you early in your career?
Early in my career, I had to be prepared. That means I had to read, I had to understand the processes and the procedures, the rules and regulations that went with it, the expectations. There were some stressors that went with that. And there were some stressors that went with some of the other people that were in that room. I had to deal with that punk-ass critic of their perceptions, real or unreal, or whether they was my own little fantasy, right, of different people in different positions. And yeah, it was some stress.
It was some stress.
Yeah, it was heavy, especially when I was new. These people that had titles, and I had a title that was not similar to their title. Now I'm in the same room as them with the same title. And I didn't necessarily have the experience. So I had to, and sometimes overstudy.
I see this a lot from executives, first-time leaders, even experienced supervisors, how they naturally show up carrying this weight and they overfunction in the sense that they have to do it all. They have to figure it out because we often carry this narrative in our mind that one, we're not good enough and we have to prove ourselves, right? The way that we prove ourselves is I can't show my weakness. I can't show my weakness and I have to prove that I am the smartest person in here and know it all. So that when my team comes to me, I got to make sure I have all of the answers. And just like you said, you do all of your policy research, you do all of these things to try to increase your knowledge. But the reality is there's no possible way that you can know everything. But we carry the weight and it creates this hidden cost. And that hidden cost sometimes most likely is burnout because you're carrying so much narrative in your mind that I got to know this. I can't let down. I got to keep going. I got to keep going. I got to do this. I got to do that. I need to learn this. Then you have the inner critic, that punk ass inner critic that's putting this narrative into your mind, especially if you're a high achiever. You can't let them see your weakness. You can't slow down because if you do, you will be thought of as, boom, whatever the narrative is that you put in your mind.
That's correct.
So that sometimes carry over to maybe fear of failure, fear of not being successful. And you start getting into these labeling of different types of fears because you are a high achiever and you don't want to let the people around you see you take any type of dips. You put this pressure on yourself that I have to know it all. I can't ask my peer. I can't delegate this out because if they make a mistake and my name's on the line, oh, hell no, it's not going down like that. So we naturally carry this weight that I got to know it. I got to know it for my team, right? But then let me go another layer deeper. So rightfully, you feel that you have to be the smartest person in the room. Okay. But then you also realize, you know what? I can't do everything myself. And you have this team. And on our team, let's just say we got about 8 people on our team. Okay. And of the 8, 2 or 3 are very high functioning people, leaders, executives, they get the job done. The other 5 or maybe the other 3 are good to average to good. And then the other 3, maybe the last 2 or whatever, may have a little bit of drama that they're carrying, some learning gaps, things like that. So guess what you do as the leader of this team? You put all of your energy toward giving the high performers all the work because you know they're going to get the job done. The people who aren't as up to speed, they get off the hook because you don't necessarily really trust them for these high performing projects. So they don't have to do that type of work. So the work goes to those high performers or the average to good performers, which ultimately starts to create an imbalance in the team dynamics because part of the team gets all the great work and then the other part of the team doesn't get so much good work, but then they're not getting the development that they need because there's a fear and a frustration that you carry and wanting to spend time to develop them. So now you're in that cycle, right? And it all comes back to the hidden cost that you're carrying because you feel that not only do you have to be the smartest person in the room, but you're going to assign the important tasks to the other smartest people in the room. And then the other people who you view may not be as the smartest is bringing down the team.
That just brings back that whole dynamic that you just broke down, Coach Mo, brings up situational leadership, right?
Absolutely.
That balance, somebody that's new to the job, they have this high energy and this, I want to do it all, but they have high will, but low skill. And then you have this other team that has high skill, but low will. Right. And now there's this complete imbalance to this whole infrastructure, as you want to call it, this team that you have and this dynamic. So That's an interesting dynamic as a manager. And how do you get
Absolutely.
all that into balance? And how does delegation affects that?
I think I go to the framework of swag in everything. I really do, because when that imbalance is present amongst the team, there's no swag there. And
No.
it goes back to self awareness, why power, aligned action, and grit, right? So people feel the imbalance that's happening. Why am I getting all of the work when Bobby Joe Sue over here is low performing? They get off the hook and they don't have to do as much work as we're doing. And so in that moment, you may be carrying a little bit of frustration and animosity towards them on the simple fact that they're not getting the same level of work that you're being given. And in that moment, you're triggered of that frustration. And when you don't have swag, you may not necessarily understand why you're frustrated with this person. You just triggered because you know that this person ain't carrying their load. They ain't stepping up to the plate. And it's freaking irritating to see how hard you're working, but yet this person right next door to you ain't carrying their weight and they're not being held accountable to that. And so in that moment, the frustration, the irritation, whatever that draining feeling that occurs, your swag is off.
That's correct.
Your swag is off. And so
That's
when you can understand that framework, what do I do? And then when you're talking about the leader of that team, and that's what this all kind of comes back to, right? I'm the leader and my team has this imbalance, right? And I don't feel good about it. My swag is off. What
that's
do I
correct.
need to do? Right. And that takes a level of self-reflection though, bro, because why does the imbalance exist?
That's correct.
What is your self-awareness telling you about this dynamic? Why do you feel that the energy is off on your team? And let's explore that for self, right? And that's the self-awareness,
That's correct. That's
right?
correct. That's correct.
And why is this important that we need to explore this? Because you need that collaboration. You need that teamwork.
That teamwork. That's
You
correct.
need that CTCT, right?
That's correct.
You need the communication, the teamwork, the collaboration, and the trust.
That's correct.
CT squared, right?
That's
You need
correct.
that. And that's the why. But that's not present because the awareness is off and because of the trigger, and then that disconnects the purpose, the why.
That's correct. That's correct.
Right? And
That's
then
correct.
in those moments, the actions are off because here's a deeper root to why action is off. Instead of being productive and following through on certain assignments that's been delegated out, a person is distracted by their triggers and they're putting their energy into the frustration that they're carrying instead of the work that they should be focused on.
Correct.
So that aligned action is off.
That's correct.
You're frustrated. You may be trying to think of ways to look for another job or trying to move on or just totally disengage because of the triggers that you're experiencing. And that characterizes no grit being present. So you're out of the framework of swag. And so that's what's happening in that moment. I love this framework again because it's just a simple word that tells you that I'm off. And then when you tie it back to the hidden cost of being the smartest person in the room, you may be the smartest person in the room. And no one's trying to discredit that. But it comes with a lot of weight because it's framed that everybody has to come to you because you are the smartest person. And when you are the smartest person, overfunctioning exists.
That's correct.
Because your swag is off, that means you're working harder to prove yourself.
That's correct.
That's where this discussion around this topic really starts to close the gap and really to help people think about this on just a deeper level. Being a supervisor, being a leader, being an exec, being an owner, being a founder, right? You might be the smartest person in the room. And I'm not even you discrediting that. But that's an amazing feat. And you should feel proud. But what cost comes with that, though? And I'm not saying, yeah, I feel that I am the smartest. So are you saying I should take a step back and not be the smartest person in the room, downplay my smartness? I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is be strategic about the capacity of knowledge and how you carry yourself. That's all I'm saying. Because when you can be strategic about giving yourself space to think through certain decisions instead of feeling I have to know everything and I have to be the decision maker. That's weight that comes with that.
That's correct. And what happens when that weight comes off, Coach Mo?
What's that?
When you finally have swag. I've been in environments where it was just, as a manager, chaotic and totally imbalance and frustration everywhere. Certain
Right.
people got promotions, certain people didn't. Certain people never showed up on time and never held accountable. But then I got into the mix.
Right.
And in that, I started, it didn't matter if you had been there 10 years versus the 2 months. You were still a human being, and I treated them all the same. And what happened was I'm sitting there at my desk one day, and the person that was against me the most, right? Because you always have that one person, that, yeah, there he is. He came into my office and he says, Algie, I get you. I get you. It's all in your name. Algie, Algie. Accountability leads to greatness in everyone. And in that mix, he was absolutely correct, because out of that unit, we create people that became coaches, people that became supervisors, people that became auditors, people that became managers, right? There was nothing but growth once swag was listed.
Absolutely. I think we all need some sort of framework that we need to operate by. A code, and I talked a little bit about the code a few episodes ago, but I think we all need to create awareness around that. And that's why I love the swag framework so much, because it is a simple code to remember, because when you think of swag, you think swagger initially, and swagger is about attitude, but the swag framework is about leading self. And that's what it comes down to. How are you leading self in moments of pressure? When you are showing up as the leader, that you have to be the smartest person in the room, rightfully, you have the right to feel that way. But there's cost that just comes with that, because when you teach your team to be reliant on you as the decision maker, and I see this a lot, senior leaders don't trust team members or their experts or their subject matter experts to make decisions, and they have to run everything by them, right? That becomes heavy too,
That's correct.
especially when you're running a large organization. And it just bottlenecks everything, because before you sign off, you have to read every memo. You have to read every policy. You have to know every single thing before you make a decision. But isn't that what the experts were hired to do, right? Is to educate you at the highest level and have a level of trust that this person is going to make the right decision for the team. But these leaders structure it that I'm not going to put my ass on the line without knowing everything that there is to know about what's coming up through the cracks. So
Right.
I'm going to position myself. I need to know all of these things. And that carries capacity, internal capacity, that naturally starts to drain you, creates this decision fatigue that you may be feeling, because now you naturally transcend into why they just can't make the decision, why they keep coming to me. But then you set up the culture for everybody to come to you.
That's
But then
right.
you complain that everyone keeps coming to you and
You're
don't take
right.
initiative to make decisions. So which is it going to be? You know what I mean?
Which is one of the beautiful things of teaching leadership. It's,
Man.
because you met me, you should be a better you. I'm here to teach you to be better than I am myself.
But it's just deep, bro. It's deep in the sense that if my leader shows up that I follow, shows up, and she has to know everything. She doesn't trust me to make a decision until I loop her in on every single thing. And then I have to get her permission before we
Wow.
make that decision. When I get in her shoes, guess what I'm going to do? I'm probably are going to take that same leadership approach because that's what I'm being conditioned to
To operate.
follow.
That's right. That's how the system works.
That's how the system works. And you see it in families, you just see it everywhere because it's the framework, it's the hidden framework that you're acclimated into.
Yes.
That framework of thinking that in order to make a decision, I have to have all the answers and I have to be the one to have these answers.
That's right.
You saw that's how your manager led you. So guess what? You're going to carry some of that in you and how you lead when you get into that role. And then that becomes the cycle.
That's correct. That's correct.
Until one of these leaders get exposed to a different type of leadership style. And now there's choice in that. It was like, okay, I can take a little bit of the Mo style. I could take a little bit of Algie style. I could take a little bit of this. And then they cultivate it into their own style.
That's
But
correct.
there are leaders who've only been led under one leader through their career. And now they're branching out. And when they get into their role of being a leader, they take a lot of those traits with them.
That's correct. That's correct. Yeah, and you see it so often, right? People get a title, right? Now I'm the executive leader. So now I have to play a certain role or persona, right? And a lot of them don't have the capacity in which to continue to have their personality that got them there in the first place.
Right.
It's very rare that they can do that. And in that, now, are you being authentically you?
Absolutely. The mask is present. When we go back to the hidden cost of being the smartest person in the room, that leader is wearing a mask because there's a fear that they don't want people around them to know that they don't know something.
That's correct. That's correct. Fake it till you make it.
Exactly. And that weight is overwhelming in itself. Just showing up because the inner critic is literally putting this jargon in your head that you don't know enough. And if you don't know enough, they're going to think you're not good enough.
That's correct.
You don't want them to know that you're not good enough. So we got to do whatever we need to do to ensure that people never find that out. And so you work harder, you put all of this additional pressure on yourself. And the reality is nobody else is even thinking about you on that level.
Wow.
They're not, because they're carrying their bullshit. The cycle of what I just shared, they're carrying it for themselves.
And they're thinking about their own stuff, but you think they're thinking about you.
And it's just everyone is in this crazy dynamic of self. And that punk ass inner critic is lighting shotgun, loud, preaching, you're not good enough. And if they find out, shit is going to hit the fan. And we don't want shit to hit the fan.
No.
So we got to keep working. We can't slow up.
Got to cover it up.
We got to cover this shit up. And then that's how these leaders show up, man. And they carry it, and they just carry it, and they just carry it. And the crazy part about it is they don't even know that they're in that cycle. They don't.
Because they've been in it so long. It becomes a habit.
Right. You don't know what you don't know. And you're just in the cycle. And that's just how you show up.
Just being you.
Just being you. Until you meet Mo, of course.
Coach Mo. Oh no.
but it's all good, man. I love talking about this stuff, man. I really do, Algie. I really do, man, because about thinking about it on a deeper level as leaders. And we're taught and we're conditioned to lead just organically, like whatever that has been through your up and come up. You naturally just lead. And I love this podcast because it really allows me the space to take deeper dives on these leadership dynamic situations that we naturally internally carry, random topics like just like today, the hidden cost of being the smartest person in the room. That was something that was really worth diving into, because I know when I was on the up and come up as a leader, there were a lot of times where I felt I had to know it all for everybody on the team. And I needed to show up to represent that. And I couldn't let the people around me down. And I figured if I slipped up, I would be letting myself down.
That's
And
right.
that was a bullshit narrative that I carried. And so that's the reason this kind of came up today. And I appreciate you like talking and contributing to this conversation. What are your final thoughts?
Mo, when you talk about let's think about it, right? And on this podcast, and when you talk about swag, and when you go deeper into thinking about the subject matter at hand, I think the depths of this is to help people get out of their own way, right? So
Yeah,
that they be able to recognize that something in this is maybe I'm the problem. Maybe I need to self analyze myself to see, am I carrying too much?
yeah,
Am I wearing the mask?
yeah.
Right. And how can I be authentically true to thyself?
That's right, brother. That's right. And just pause, reflect, create that self awareness, understand your why power, create some aligned actions, and don't give up on yourself. And that's swag. When we get into that framework and we commit to that framework for self, you just naturally become better. And that's what this is about, helping people become better. I appreciate you, brother. You have a good day.
You too.
That's another rep in the inner arena. You didn't just listen, you leveled up your swag, self-awareness, why power, aligned action, and grit. If this hit home, share it. Subscribe to the Let's Think About It podcast and lock in with me on YouTube at Swag Coaching. Until next time, stay aware, lead with your why, act in alignment, and keep your grit strong.
We gon' big, gon' big. We gon' big, gon' big. We gon' big, gon' big.